What's up, everybody? Big Italy 42 here with you, talking about week 8 and some running back options for you for your FanDuel games, for cash games, and GPPs. Starting off here with a guy who's kind of been a popular play over the past few weeks and should continue to be that this week, and that's Spencer Ware. Still just seems too cheap at $7,400, now facing a Colts defense that Football Outsiders ranks as the worst run defense in the entire NFL. Maybe the worst defense overall. We kind of know how it's been throughout this season and really in recent years against this Colt defense. It's a pretty easy target. Spencer Ware, significantly cheaper than some of the top options that we'll talk about here as far as price goes. And I mean, the guy's been tremendous of late, even with Jamal Charles back. 19-1 touches over Charles last week, 294 yards and a pair of scores, one rushing, one receiving over the past 2 weeks. And team total 26 for the Chiefs. This is a really good spot for Ware. His price, I don't think it's going to go up a lot from this, honestly, with, Jamal Charles slowly getting back into the mix. But it's definitely a spot where you want to be taking advantage. He's going to be a popular play, especially in cash games. So this is a guy that you're going to want to get onto some of your rosters here. Next up, if you're going to be paying up, which obviously there are some options when I get down to value here that you can certainly slide into your cash games, and you probably should. However, if you want to lock in the highest floor for any running back on the slate, it's David Johnson. I mean, Le'Veon Bell is off this week. David Johnson sitting at $8,700, facing a Panthers team that, if you look at the numbers, ranks 6th against the run as far as Football Outsiders is concerned. But our model loves some of these projects, almost 20 FanDuel points. And this is a guy that should have just been absolutely tremendous. Every single game, he has at least 3 catches for 27 yards through the air. Over the last 3 weeks, with 13 last week, 25 total targets over those 3 weeks. His floor is just absolutely tremendous. He had 41 touches last week. Obviously, we're not likely to see that again anytime soon, but who knows? Jacquizz Rodgers has seen similar touches recently as well. But Johnson does lead the NFL with 11 carries inside the 5-yard line. 6 of those carries have turned into touchdowns for him. And this is just another spot where on paper it looks like it's a tough one for him, but this is a guy that's just absolutely matchup proof right now. Carolina and Arizona, I expect to turn into a shootout this week. So this is definitely a spot where I'm looking to get myself some pieces. And, you're looking at the production for him this year. He already has 2 games in his last 3 with over 30 fantasy points on FanDuel, over 110 rushing yards each of the last 3 games. Last game, he had over 171 total yards, despite not even finding the end zone, 21 fantasy points. So David Johnson, most expensive guy on the board, but certainly a guy that gives you a tremendous floor. All right, looking next to GPP running backs. And this is a guy that I would like in cash games if he were completely healthy and he had shown more consistency this year. But due to those factors, this is a guy that I'm reserving for GPPs here, and that's Matt Forte. Sitting at $7,300, facing a Cleveland Browns team that ranks 30th in the NFL per Football Outsiders against the run. And Forte has a questionable tag next to him, of course, which will likely keep his ownership down to maybe not particularly low levels. He's not a very sneaky play, but certainly a guy that will have lower ownership than he should in such a good matchup here. We saw Jeremy Hill last week just explode on this defense, 9 carries, almost 170 yards. And obviously, you're not expecting that sort of efficiency out of Matt Forte. But, we have seen some huge games at him this year. Looking at what he's done, we've seen a 27-point game last time out, 34 total touches, 154 yards, 2 touchdowns. We saw a 3-touchdown game against Buffalo, which was a tough matchup. Then we've seen him kind of disappear against Arizona, Pittsburgh, Seattle, and Kansas City. But those are some pretty tough matchups, some of the tougher spots he's going to see here this year. So now facing a Browns team, maybe he's not 100%, but that's going to keep his ownership low. And I do like him here for upside at just $7,300. Next up, Melvin Gordon, $7,200, facing the Broncos. Obviously, Broncos, one of, if not the best defensive unit in football. Ranked 14th against the run, according to Football Outsiders. Chargers, obviously not in a good spot here offensively. Team total of below 20 points. And something that's near and dear to my heart is hating on Matt Asiata and his lack of efficiency. But tied with Matt Asiata for the 33rd highest yards per attempt in the NFL is Melvin Gordon. So his yardage totals leave him playing to be desired here. But this is a guy who is absolutely a red zone weapon. You look at his production over the course of the season so far, his 31 carries inside the opponent's 20-yard line, and 77% of his carries inside the 5, 7 out of 9 have gone for scores. Obviously, you're not expecting he's going to continue that sort of pace against the Broncos, but this is still a team that, relies on Melvin Gordon in the red zone. And he did face this same team a couple weeks back, 27 carries for 94 yards, which was a solid number as far as floor goes. Didn't find the end zone, and it was actually one of just 2 games this year where he did not catch a pass, the first one being first week when Danny Woodhead was still around. But, this is a guy that he is the offense for this team. He's the only consistent option. He gets the ball in the red zone. He is the goal line back, and there's really no competition there. So at his cheap price, tough matchup. I think his ownership will be low, but he's definitely a guy that I'm on in GPPs. Next up, the guy we expect to be probably the highest owned player at any position, certainly the highest owned player at the running back position. That's Dante Booker. On the opposite side of this one, CJ Anderson, torn meniscus, undergoing surgery. Maybe he's back for playoffs. We don't care about that right now in daily fantasy, of course. So Dante Booker, though, took over last week, 17 carries for 83 yards and a score. Caught 1 of 2 targets for another 4 yards. He's sitting at just $5,600. And, putting that in perspective, as far as guys priced similarly to him, you've got DeAndre Washington, Ryan Matthews, Zach Zenner, Niall Davis. You've got guys that aren't even going to play. Reggie Bush, Don Jackson, Justin Forsett. I mean, this is an incredible price for him. This is one where it's a simple one. You don't overthink this one. Dante Booker was a solid back at Utah in college. And, CJ Anderson out of the mix, this is a guy that should see, his around 20 carries, 20 touches that we see from CJ Anderson, and facing a Chargers team that's below average against the run, 18th in the NFL. So this is certainly a spot where I'm looking to take advantage. And I mean, you would be crazy not to be playing Devontae Booker in your cash games, and even avoiding him in GPPs just seems like a pretty negative even move. That's not a spot that I'm going to be fading him at all. So he's a guy I'm going to be locking into most of my lineups. Next up, Jacquizz Rodgers. This is an interesting situation, of course, because we've seen just a ridiculous amount of volume from him over the past couple weeks. Obviously, his first time in, faced Carolina, 35 total touches, 129 total yards, but no touchdowns. Last week, 27 total touches, 163 total yards, still no touchdowns. We did see Peyton Barber steal a touchdown in some late carries from him last week. So keep in mind, if you're playing a cash game, for me, it's going to be Spencer Ware, Devontae Booker. And I think that Rodgers is best reserved for GPPs, and I don't think he has a ton of upside. But if you're looking for the upside, then Peyton Barber could be an interesting option. I do think Quiz still gets most of the touches, and this is a great matchup against Oakland, ranked 27th in the NFL. Team total over 24 for Tampa Bay. So Rodgers does give you a decent floor. It remains to be seen what kind of workload he's going to have here. As Doug Martin seems like I don't think he's officially out actually for this week, but very unlikely to play. So Rodgers, best reserve for GPP. You hope that he can rack up a bunch of yardage there, but he's definitely a guy that is still underpriced for his current role. So keep that in mind. And if you are playing the all-day slate with the London game, Chris Thompson looks like an interesting option now with Matt Jones officially ruled out against the Bengals. But I personally not a big fan of those London slates. So thanks for hanging out here. Check out dailyfantasycafe.com for lots of great content for NFL, NBA, and everything in between.